Good afternoon, my friends. This is the Grim Flayer. Hope you're doing very well today. And did I call it or what? People were like, oh man, I'm a little underwhelmed. It's Commander Horizons, whatever. And I said, just be patient, my friends. We're gonna see some big bombs coming up very soon. And my goodness, are there big bombs? Now, this isn't one of them. This is kind of a warm up before I cover other big bombs, but it is an interesting card. We're gonna talk a little bit about Verdant Command here. But yeah, like I said yesterday on Tuesday, I said, hold the line, keep the faith. This is how Modern Horizons 1 spoilers went, where there's a lot of more for fun cards and commander-oriented cards at the beginning, and then the modern bombs just started dropping. I think we've entered that stage of spoilers here, and it is very exciting. So we're going to cover all of it on the channel. I've got no time to do it. I don't care. This is the biggest hype that I have for Magic, is the Modern Horizons sets. That is definitely by far the most hype generation for me personally. So I'm going to cover everything that it makes sense to cover, and we're going to start today's batch here with Verdant Command. Thank you very much for watching. Let's dive right into it. Verdant Command for 1 gray and 1 green, so mana value of 2, is an instant speed modal spell where you choose 2 and there are 4 options. That structure by itself makes me think that we need to look at this card, because those are a lot of things that are all very positive when you put them together. Modal spells like Collective Brutality and Witherbloom Command are sometimes powerful or flexible or both, but sorcery speed can gate them a little bit. Sometimes modal spells don't have 4 modes. Sometimes they have a lot of modes, but you only choose 1. So between that and the fact that it is a friendly casting cost with 1 gray, 1 green, I think there's a lot to like about it. It is a guaranteed 2-for-1 as long as both of the modes line up. And then if you look at the first line, the first option reads, target player creates 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Now, that is a 3-for-1. And that mode, I think, is the floor of the card, and honestly one of the most powerful things about the card, because if any of the other 3 modes line up, you're getting a 2-mana 3-for-1 at instant speed. Now, let's put that in context and say that 2 of those 3 in the phrase 3-for-1 are just simply 1/1s that enter tapped, right? So it's not setting the world on fire, but it is technically pretty extreme value, right? And very flexible as well. Let's read on. So you make 2 squirrel tokens, they enter tapped. The next mode, counter target loyalty ability from a planeswalker source. Okay, interesting. That's a good modal ability, because obviously that's not something that is always live, but when it is, often it'll be really good. Instant speed, of course, the only reason that's even, a viable line of text. Third option, exile target card from a graveyard. Once again, this is something that would not be main deckable anywhere near by itself. The closest thing to that is like Scavenging Ooze or Nile Spellbomb, things that either replace themselves or serve multiple different roles. But this is actually pretty decent targeted graveyard. Not hate, it's like a graveyard speed bump, but in context of being modal, that's fine. In the final mode, target player gains 3 life. Obviously, that has plenty of applications against the aggressive side of the meta. I do see more and more cards designed with gain 4 life as an ability, and I do wonder if we could get a little bit more excited about this card if it gained 4, because then it would be more respectable burn hate, more respectable prowess, again, maybe more of a speed bump than hate against prowess, but still live. And then when you have the good proactive floor of making 2 squirrel tokens, the other modes are a little bit more narrow, a little bit more conditional, a little bit less common, but those could line up too. So if we gained 4 life, I would like this card more. Or if these squirrel tokens came in untapped, I would like this card a lot more, because then you could add blowouts in combat, making instant speed blockers against low toughness attackers to the list of things that this card could do. So right now I'm going to say it's just a little bit shy of being rock playable. Will it rock? I think probably not, but I'm going to put an asterisk beside that. And let's go on to talk a little bit more about what it lines up against and what might push it a little bit more into viability. So once again, I think this first mode is in many ways the lifeblood of the card. I think more often than not, you'll be using the first mode plus one of the others. And one of the things that could push this into viability is if we get just a little bit more synergy that slots into BG the Rock or other mid-range decks without having to really warp the deck or make the deck less powerful to do something more janky. If we get a little bit more of the sacrifice synergy. There are a couple cards that I have not covered and don't intend to cover yet. Maybe if more synergy cards for those get printed that come to mind that have already been revealed in MH2. One of them is a fellow squirrel, Ravenous Squirrel. Now this card it's got a lot of text on it. It's pretty good in Lurrus decks, right? Because it's a 1-drop, it snowballs in size, you can buy it back pretty easily with Lurrus, and most importantly, whenever you crack a Mishra's Bauble with this thing around, or a Nile Spellbomb for that matter, it's going to grow. And then it's kind of got a mana sink ability that could be good with multiple copies of Squirrel, or with a Bob that's outlived its usefulness, or just by putting things in the bin to draw a card and then picking them back up with Lurrus. There's a lot to like here. If Ravenous Squirrel was a little bit more powerful, a little bit more overall playable, then this Verdant command could actually be a pretty good fodder for that card in addition to all the other things it does. That said, I think all of this together, we need one more big bomb. We need one more signpost card to really go down this route with Rock. Right now, I think it's still a little too cute, a little too janky, a little bit too low power if everything isn't coming together. Another card that I would put in that same exact category is Grist the Hunger Tide. This is a card that a lot of people have asked me about, and look, this card's a little bit nutty in a few different ways. I just don't think it slots into Rock directly. Now, it is good in a few different ways that Planeswalkers usually aren't. You can Coco and Chord into it, you can unearth this card. There's a lot going on, and it's flexible, there's a lot of value, but it's just not along the Rock plan as directly as it is along the plan of, say, Yawgmoth, or maybe other Collected Company decks, or other decks that have a more heavy sacrifice theme. But again, if we get one big signpost card, one big enabler for all of this stuff, Verdant Command could be a role player alongside potentially Ravenous Squirrel, Grist the Hunger Tide, and maybe other things out of MH2. So the second mode, we're countering a target loyalty ability from a Planeswalker source, and to me, the highest use case ceiling for this is when the opponent has spent a lot of mana to resolve a Planeswalker and they feel priced into, or they feel the optimal play is to take it down. Because then you get to have your cake and eat it too. Your opponent has tapped out, you get to counter their ability after they've lost loyalty to use it, and then you can also, again, make those squirrels at the same time, so then you untap, you attack the Planeswalker off the battlefield. That would be a really clean way, frankly, to deal with Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, again, if he has to take down. Of course, mid-range mirrors come to mind as well. Lily of the Veil, any Planeswalker really can be a big mid-range mirror breaker. We can counter her -2 if that's the play, and then we can also make those squirrels to efficiently attack her off the field on the crackback. Now, the third mode is exile target card from a graveyard. Again, not very impressive in and of itself, but this is good supplementary graveyard hate card if it's in your sideboard, or it could be your out main deck, right? If your opponent's on Dredge, you can tag that Stinkweed Imp, crucially, might be enough to slow them down, might be enough to keep you in the game, especially if you make a couple squirrels to help swing the race a little bit in your favor. Or again, if we're thinking mid-range or control, you can target the Cryptic command, they're about to snap back, the Croak's out of the opponent's graveyard, you guys get the drift, right? And then finally, target player gains 3 life. We know what that's all about. Again, I kind of wish it was 4. I think we need that, or we need the squirrel tokens to be untapped, or we need more synergy with other interesting cards out of this set. If none of those 3 things come to fruition, and of course 2 of them won't because the card is already set in stone, then I don't think this is quite going to rock. But as it is, if you do decide to play this card, obviously it's good against burn. It's a speed bump against other aggressive decks that repeatedly attack you, but against burn, you're countering a Lava Spike, making a couple squirrels. That is totally fine. So there you go, guys. Hey, this one's not the most exciting, but it is very interesting. I thought it was worth talking about. It also gave me an excuse to touch on Ravenous Squirrel and Grist the Hunger Tide, another couple cards people have been asking me about, and this is just a warm-up for the bigger bombs to come, so please stay tuned for those. Give this a like so we get more reach on the channel. Leave a comment with your thoughts on Verdant Command, and I'll see you for many, many, many more spoiler videos to come over the next week. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.